thank you all, and happy Veterans Day. What a beautiful song, what beautiful talent displayed here. Glory, glory, hallelujah. My name is Alejandra Maria Sanchez, and like Salji said, I have the high honor of being our community's chaplain for both the Veteran of Foreign Wars and for the American Legion. To all my brothers and sisters in arms, with love, happy Veterans Day. This is dedicated to you. And to all of the service organizations and nonprofits that support our active duty and military veterans and the American way of life. Most of all, to my beloved Gigi. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your support, and especially thank you for all the love. Service organizations, those who serve and choose to continue serving. A special shout out to the leadership because of their personal continued sacrifices and love for our country. They keep the lights on sacred organizations such as this one, and these ones that are hosting today's festivities, providing venues to celebrate and so much more. The VFW and the American Legion, they cleverly or accidentally are disguised as social organizations. I've heard the rumors. They're not just drinking or party clubs. They safeguard America, preserve our freedoms and the American way through actions that are rarely openly seen. They're in the business of constructing change and betterment of the American service members' quality of life. Politically and legally, these organizations are one of our highest advocates, from community levels to Washington, D.C. Today, I would like to share a few private stories that I hope highlight some snippets, snapshots, of what service organizations such as the VFW, American Legions, and countless other nonprofits do every day in our country, all over the world, to support active duty military, veterans, and patriot celebrations like this one. Through the passport of my eyes, it's my hope and intent to share some pictures of my memories. I'd like to introduce my real-life band of brothers and personal heroes, most of which I've never met. This is my 18th year celebrating Veterans Day as a veteran. It didn't always look like this. The first year, I woke up from a series of so many night terrors, shakes, and sweats that my bed was covered like it was 2 buckets of water spilled on it. It's been a sacred and privileged journey. And this is the first year celebrating without my beloved canine battle buddy. Her legal status was service animal, but not to me, she was so much more. That not one term could contain or encompass the depth of her interspecies friendship. She was with me smiling in the good and extra brighter in the bad. She started as a pet and allowed herself to be trained to the highest level. She did it. She answered the call of service, and I could see the pride in her eyes while she was working. If anyone has had the privilege of knowing a working dog, such as a canine or a service animal, that they too, like humans, have work and home personalities, it was something to see. Gigi switching gears from home mode to work mode and back. While deployed in Iraq 2003, I sustained a very mild version of what was to become a very common service-connected injury of my generation. While many sustain traumatic brain injuries from miraculously surviving an IED, an improvised explosive device, others like me sustained it from a common fall. I was working on top of a 5-ton truck while pushing through a back injury when spontaneously it spasmed to the point of losing control. I fell off the top of the 5-ton truck, landing straight on my head. Of course, once I regained consciousness, I exulted, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. During my time in Iraq, I had the rare privilege of witnessing true heroism. I'm an Army air traffic controller by trade. Tactical airfields and forward operation bases is where I could be found. RPGs, mortars, flares, and the best serenade the U.S. artillery and infantry fire sang to me all night long. The lullabies of heroes giving up their lives for our protection, and the heroes that keep the fight alive after the best friend died in front of them. One common day on the tarmac, I saw the most uncommon parade of heroes. It was the severely wounded and dying, being rushed into aircraft, a speeding racing line of gurneys with combat medic teams surrounding them. Fallen war angels, desperately trying to make it home. I also had the delayed gift of encountering the worst from a few bad apples. Another not so uncommon concurrent service-connected injury is MST and PTSD, military sexual trauma. From mild ranging up to death, and not gender exclusive as a job hazard of a female soldier member only. Invisible injuries do accumulate and are acquired by the survivor. The gruesome nights, the shakes, the sweats, the 2 to 3 hours of sleep I lived on for the first 9 to 10 years. I didn't get my first probably 7 hours of full sleep till 2014, after I tried transcendental meditation for about 23 consecutive days. I don't know if I was just so tired of meditating or what, but I finally fell asleep. Post-traumatic stress has had a lot of name changes, and currently it's called post-traumatic stress disorder, and a good friend of mine calls it PTSI, as he believes it's an injury, not a disorder we're born with, and I happen to agree. I was not born this way. Quite in fact, I'm surprised that I'm talking quite normally. On any given day, I'll sound normal, and then from a moment, without notice, I may share my now personal language of communication that has accidentally come from the doctors aren't sure if it's mostly the brain injury or the post-trauma or a fever, etc. But they all agree it's sustained in combat, and it mutates and it changes as we heal. Scientists and researchers are working tirelessly to learn more about our magnificent brain and how it responds to damages, how it heals, how it lives and works in spite of brain damage. The even more interesting correlation is how two separate yet concurrent conditions behave and present themselves in the lives of those who have these medical labels. I joined to become a veteran. I joined because I wanted to contribute to my country in the most important and sacrificial way I knew how. My father, an immigrant, his great love for America, he groomed and raised 2 patriots, 2 combat deployed children, a boy and a girl. My mother's faith and prayers sustained us during times of training and deployment. Now I can recount of when my mother's prayers sustained us, and now we're finally home. Now that it's over, I can recount when the American Legion was able to spring 6 soldiers for 6 hours out of basic training for an Easter brunch. That's when I lovingly coined a term of the pin hat power. I've never met these men, I'd seen them. I knew they were former military, but I knew they had some pull and some strength, because I'd never heard of any basic training soldiers leaving for 6 hours out of basic training. Have you? Again, some stories are common and some are not. As a chaplain, I am going to go out on a leap of faith and share that this is a story of prayer, protection, and provision. And I've seen that thread in my military experience. After basic training, I went on and so on and so forth. Now we're in Iraq. And without going into detail, I'm being pursued. And there's a big threat on my life, and it's not just the attacks from the enemy. During that time, I stumbled upon care packages that were sent from We Support the Troops. It had things we needed and things that were just for fun. And I can't tell you or share how much this little paper umbrella sustained my heart, because I knew there were American patriots all across the country, volunteering their time, sending emails, joining, creating conversations on how they can help and how they can show us our love. That was the ammo I fought on. You, the American people, the American spirit. The VFW was there to hand me a red poppy. When I landed in Ramine or Ramstein, I don't remember now. But they were there with a red poppy and a clean toothbrush. Thank God, because somehow I had misplaced it and it had taken me several days to get there. And my teeth felt so furry and fuzzy. I actually got home on a miracle too. My unit probably projected for me to be a stop-loss statistic. But there you go again, my mother's prayers. There was a stop-loss signed and in effect, and in the course of a few days, one wasn't signed, it was inactive, and by the time I got to land in non-combat territory, the stop-loss had been signed. What that means is, by the course of a few days, I would have gone home when I did. And maybe further would have happened. They were there to help me fill out my disability forms and service-connected X and Y, and unfortunately at that time, it did not process. But they were there the next year, the following year, disabled American veterans, Purple Heart. It took about 16 years. It was a little hard to pinpoint a mild brain trauma. I like to have a little fictional world where I pretend it reminds me our community imaginatively appears to me as a real-life version of some cross of The Real Life Incredibles meets Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Yeah. And I'm so lucky. And I wish every veteran could see all the love and patriotism for their country and community events like this. And I like to challenge each and every one, including myself, what more can we do? After what I've seen with my own eyes, I have to agree with Edna from The Incredibles. Real superheroes don't wear capes. They are everyday people like each and every one of us sitting here that answer the call of service or service and support. Jim Bannock is my father in arms. Loyalty and duty like his I've yet to see. I love you. When crisis hit, he alerted the troops. He alerted the troops, and that's how I finally joined the American Legion and VFW. I want to extend a special thank you to this year's Grand Marshal, Al Salgi, who continues to answer the call in creative and innovative ways. Going back to the symptoms. There are some symptoms too private to share. Yet when I informed Al of all the situation, he opened the doors to his home, and we began study hall, a code name for VA medical case management of multiple and concurrent occurring service-connected conditions. I might not look like the stereotypical combat deployed soldier, yet I am. Gigi didn't look anything like a legally ADA qualified service animal, yet she was. Gigi, you poured your love into my wounded soul, woke me up countless nights with your tongue in my eyeball, desperately trying to wake me up. You weren't scared of the shakes or the quakes, and I knew how bad the nightmare was depending how much drool I had on my face. Besides the nightmares and her healing touch, she taught me to live in spite of challenges. May we remember that. Now, before I part, and I planted them in my garden, and I watched it grow. May we remember that, and may we remember we are united under one nation, indivisible. We are united, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you, and thank you so much for your love and support.
Alejandra, I forgot to tell you, you can turn around and look on the back table. That was Gigi, her service dog. Unfortunately, Gigi passed away recently, and of course Alejandra took it very hard because Gigi helped her heal.